Talking about the Symbionese Liberation Army, in '74, there was a huge firefight in South Central Los Angeles where they were holed up in a house. I mean, it was just 500 cops, thousands of bullets flying, and then the house burned down and they all died inside. And I read this somewhere. I don't have like firsthand knowledge of this. I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but that Big John McCarthy, his dad was an LAPD cop too, and that he was like a major figure in that. He like won a medal for valor, like for like doing things during the shootout there.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's interesting. Yeah,
Big
John
know that.
can tell me if I'm wrong about that, but I read it
Yeah,
somewhere.
I'll ask him. I didn't know that. Shout out to Big John, the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so strange that the pattern repeats itself over and over again of one person with the answers, one charismatic figure who believes they're right and gets a bunch of people to go with them, and in the beginning makes a very, very attractive environment for these people, really does foster this sense of community and belonging, and then eventually it all goes sideways, and it almost always has to do with some sort of either amphetamines or something along those lines.
Well, I mean, that's something that really happened that derailed the protest movement, like through, like not just in the People's Temple cult, but like in general. Like if you read about, you lived in San Francisco for a while, right?
Yeah.
When did you live there?
So I was 7, so there was 71-ish.
Okay, so this is like around
74-ish, 74-ish.
It's around
Yeah.
this time. You read about how like everybody thinks about the Summer of Love and it was all chill or whatever, but like by the time you get up to 67, that's really kind of like in a lot of ways like the end of the flower power like era of the 60s, not the beginning of it. Like a lot of people think like the Summer of Love in 67 kind of kicked the whole thing off. It didn't. Like by that point, all the people who had been into, they were smoking herb and doing mushrooms and LSD and everything, things had started to switch over, and people were doing speed like crazy.
Well, especially after 70, right?
Yeah.
When they passed the Sweeping Psychedelics Act, it didn't cover prescription amphetamines.
Yeah.
And, in the pool player community where, I was playing pool all the time, guys would take amphetamines and play for 36 hours in a row. And it was a war of attrition. The whole thing was like to see how long the other guy would be able to hold up and what kind of mixture he was on.
And it changed the culture, of course, because I mean, a culture that's based around LSD and weed and whatever is totally different than a culture based around speed,
Yeah, but look at cocaine movies. Look at the 1980s. Everything's a cocaine movie. They're terrible.
Yeah.
You go and watch like Le Mans, go watch like some of these like really interesting films from the 1970s or the 1960s. And then you go 20 years forward, you're like, what the fuck happened? Yeah. Cocaine happened.
Yeah.
Everybody started believing that everything they did was awesome.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons, like, I know people talk about the beginning of the war on drugs and, that a big part of it was about having a way to, like, get in and prosecute, like, civil rights activists and everything. And that's all true. At the same time, like, I look back on those people, Richard Nixon, maybe he was like, what was he, like 50 or 60 or something in 1970. So he was born in 1910. We just closed the frontier like a few years before that. And like he's born in 1910, and people are watching like the transformations that are taking place in society that already just culturally are so mind-bending in terms of
radical change.
Yeah, and seeing like the increase in violence, all of the things that are coming with the new drug culture, especially once it started to move away from psychedelics into, street drugs and stuff. And, thinking that like, this is, I mean, I think that they had those motivations. Like they thought, this is a way to get at these people we need to stop. But I also think that they really believe like, this is crazy. This is a real problem and we've got to do something about it. I mean, there's one of my episodes, it's part of the labor series, but it centers around this teachers union strike that happened in New York City in Brooklyn in 1968, and it became like it turned into a big blow up between it actually expanded even past the city, but especially within the city between the black radicals and activists and the Jews in the city. because the teachers union in the New York City public schools at the time, the teachers and administrators were like 75% Jewish. And in this one particular school where the parents, the kids, everybody are getting radicalized by like the Black Power ideas that are emerging in the latter half of the 60s, especially in New York, because they got Harlem up there, and Harlem was always kind of the fountainhead of that kind of thing. They came into conflict over, how the school was going to be run. But part of it, the way the conflict kind of really started off was the teachers were like going to their union, and they were going on strike not because they wanted like more pay or anything like that. It was because like teachers were getting raped. They were getting beaten. One of them got set on fire. It was like crazy, like what was going on.